People who have found secret rooms or blocked off rooms and areas in their houses. What do you think the previous owners were trying to hide? Found one in my previous house. Looks like they refunded the attic and added a short wall instead of just letting the rafters run at an angle down to the floor, and then added a screwed shut door cover to access it. There was only a half dozen old paint cans in there. There was another one in the far side of the room that was bigger and had a light switch and bulb in there, but it was empty. Guessing they used it for storage at one point, but not sure why they had the cover screwed on. I added hinges and put our holiday decorations in there. A couple years into the house with my ex-wife, I was in the garage, looked up, and noticed the outline of the door in a wood panel. I took a ladder, climbed up, and opened it. It was empty. I never told anyone in the family about it. Years later, my daughter asked me where I used to hide gifts in the old house, because for years at Christmas and her birthday, she would look all around the house for her gifts. Of course, she never found them, because she never looked up in the garage. I lived in a house with a built-in shelf and clothes hamper in the bathroom, original to the house. The trim around it was door-sized, for reference. We decided to replace it all at one point and found a closet behind it that was about 3x the volume of the built-in structure. The layout of the house masked the extra missing space, so we never noticed it before. Not as cool as some of these, but an interesting look at an odd construction shortcut. Drafts mainly. I've been renovating an old cottage and found the old coal cellar underneath the bathroom when I took the floor up. Original ramp had been sealed off and covered by a later kitchen extension. Besides that, a 2 feet void top to bottom along one side with some creepy curtains and old wallpaper where the internal walls have been moved around. Tempting to put some witch marks or similar to mess with the next owner before I seal it up. My house has a second, secret basement under one of its extensions. Only way in is to pull nails out of the window and crawl in the 1x2 foot opening. No real malicious thing though, just a lazy or underpaid contractor who didn't feel like joining the 2 basements, just a cost-saving thing emo. Still fun to use as storage, like I'm hiding illegal artifacts instead of old shit I can't be bothered to throw out. This is a story from my husband. His uncle was an executive with a big company. He was transferred to Europe but knew he'd be coming back to the USA eventually. They had a lot of wine, they couldn't move it all, so walked off that part of the basement and rented out the house. When they returned from Europe for good, the wine was still there. No one had realized there was a room there. In the house I live in now, there's several inaccessible areas that were framed over and covered. Due to some dropped ceilings, and some hacky additions, those inaccessible areas can actually be accessed via the attic. They present as these deep voids in the attic filled with spiderwebs and a sprinkling of batshit. Old paint cans, some books, kids' toys, etc. Not my house, but my husband works in construction and once did a job where the homeowners built a secret entrance from the master bedroom to an underground room. They were insulating the underground room because the homeowners wanted it soundproof. We've always said the only 2 things that could be going on there is sex or murder. My dad built the house I grew up in. The main floor had high ceilings. After a few years, in the 2 main floor bedrooms, he decided to put in drop ceilings, to save on heat. Eventually the house was sold. If anyone ever checks behind the ceiling tiles, one room has a small attic. The other room has a very large, empty closet. When I was a teen living in Carmel, Indiana, I would go to my friends and in his house. Old big house, he had secret rooms between the walls we would smoke cigarettes in. At the time I didn't think much of it, but looking back I'm assuming these rooms were used for the Underground Railroad. The house I used to have had a kind of hiding spot in the basement where if you moved the shelf there was a space. Turns out it was pretty inadvertent. The previous owners were just really shitty at doing renovations and didn't know how to properly fill in that awkward corner. My husband moved in with me after I'd been living in my house for 5 years. He found a secret room in the basement I had no idea was there. The previous owner of the house was a homicide detective, so we think it was a weapons room or something. My house has a lot of bonus space. There was a closet under the stairs, with a bonus door. The previous owners kept their luggage there. There are also 2 doors upstairs going into the attic crawl space. My son thinks it is haunted. I suspect there may be a hidden compartment under the basement stairs in our house. I haven't had time to investigate, but it wouldn't surprise me with the stories I've heard of the previous owners. We built a secret room when our house was being built. It is under the front stairs and we store Christmas decorations there as it is 5 away from where we set up the tree. My mom's childhood home in Germany had a secret alcove in her house. The previous owners were using it to shelter a couple of Jewish kids during the Holocaust. Dad, his snacks. Kid, his tobacco, porn, condom collection. Mom, not even now existed.